Thank you for joining us for another episode of Secrets of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Today I'm going to show you more war litter along the trail, the people who live there, and show you North Vietnamese soldier writings found on cave walls. First, a very quick language note, as I get comments on this in every episode. The word Laos does not exist in the Lao language, either in written or spoken word. In fact, no Lao words end with the S sound, the same as with the Thai language. Seems that those pesky Portuguese added an S onto the Lao name, and the French continued with the practice. Since I live in the region, I attempt to speak as the locals do. Otherwise, when they watch and comment on my videos, as many of the English speakers in this region do, they question my knowledge of the region if I can't even pronounce the name of the country correctly. I want to take a moment to pay tribute to one of the earliest pioneers exploring the Ho Chi Minh Trail, American Don Duval. Before coming to Laos, he sailed the Chesapeake Bay, and upon moving to Laos, his life's passion became exploring the Ho Chi Minh Trail. A fluent Lao speaker, he frequently rode alone, armed with his GPS while sleeping in a jungle hammock, living off local sticky rice and smoked chicken. He became known as the Midnight Mapper, and his GPS survey work effectively helped create a more detailed on-the-ground record of a trail network that had reverted to jungle and was largely undocumented in any systemic way after the war. He also captured the remote daily life and tasks of the common people who lived along the trail. He enjoyed engaging with the local Lao who lived there, uncovering even more information. Duval's knowledge made him a sought-after guide. He worked with a BBC television crew researching the world's most dangerous roads, joining producer and fellow motorcycle trail guide Digby Greenhalgh to reconnoiter a 600-kilometer section of the trail. He also served as a guide for Red Bull's media documentary Blood Road, and also for endurance cyclist Rebecca Rush, whose father was a U.S. Air Force pilot shot down and killed along the trail in 1972. Frankly, it's largely only Westerners who have any interest in the trail. Although there are certain exceptions, most Vietnamese wanted to put the war in their past, and certainly the Lao do. Author Karen Turner, in her seminal 1990s book about women of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, Even the Women Must Fight, wrote that her Vietnamese interpreter asked her, "Why do you want to talk about the war? We want to forget it. It's only you Americans and the older people who think about it." During the time Duval and Greenhalgh began exploring the trail early in this century, there was certainly more abundant war litter. But with a bad economy, locals sold the metal for scrap. In the years immediately after the war, elephants were used to pull the bombs and scrap from the field. Soviet surface-to-air or SAM missile casings provided an abundant amount of metal. This one was intact previously. But during our trip, it had already been cut up into various sizes.
There's the handle.
There it is.
There it is.
เครื่องยนต์บอก
Ah, cool. I love being
ตัวนี้นะ
detective.
จะลวด
ตัวนี้
บ่อันนั้นจะลวดใหญ่มัน
Kai, I'll try to find the black and white. Alright, cool. It's another one. It's not the one we were looking for, but this is similar to the other one, which kind of suggests that two SAM missiles were left here.
Bomb. This lady in the village was quick to tell me, bombs go boom, and then you die. As you travel in Eastern Laos, you see a lot of the scrap has become novelty, placed around gas stations, guest houses, and other areas, both for decoration and to spruce up the area. Okay, Digby, what do you think this is?
Well, I'm not sure, but I've looked at photographs of SAM missiles, and they often have these boxes to the side. Because if we open this up, you'll see that it's got all of these things, which I presume is to wrap up, you know, wires and all the rest.
Ah, yes.
So perhaps it's some kind of
Communications.
some kind of, you know what I mean? Like
American?
No, I'd say no. It's Russian.
This is Russian.
There's Russian writing somewhere on the side. So I don't know if it's to do with the SAM missile or whether it's.
There's the Russian writing on the top of the lid.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. The whole bag's full of scrap. So what? People are still finding stuff here.
Yeah. โหลดเท่าไหร่ล่ะซื้อเอาอ่ะเนี่ยเขาซื้อเอาอ่ะโหลด3,000
ชุดดัง
song
How much do they get a kilo?
2,000 kit.
Only 2,000.
Yeah, but it's heavy, yeah.
กันหนึ่ง
2,000 kit for 1 kilo, and this one
Okay, so-
26,
26 kilos.
23, so it's about 46,000.
During our travels, the diet consists of a lot of sticky rice and smoked chicken. This lady near the Mugia Pass was quite proud of her sticky rice. Of course, particularly the sticky rice, called khao niao in Lao and Thai, is made into liquor because of its high sugar content. When drank in these jugs, it is called Lao Hai, but in general, rice liquor is also called Lao Khao or Lao Lao. The people are typically friendly, and usually each hamlet of any size has a local merchant selling snacks and drinks to the locals, and we typically buy things from the merchant to hand out to the kids.
Okay.
Sometimes we bring snacks into the village to hand out. However, as we got nearer the Vietnamese border, some folk seemed a bit reticent to engage with us, which I suspect is because this is an extremely remote region and they don't see a lot of foreigners other than motorcycle riders. Some still have this old attitude that photographs steal the soul, and you will see some turn their heads away when the camera is pulled out. The folk in this village seemed shy. Note how it looked during the war. Today in this area, there is bomb crater after bomb crater. As we approach Bon Laboy, one of the most heavily bombed areas of Laos, we encountered 3 old people walking. Their destination was over 20 miles away along rugged mountain road. They would not have made it by nightfall, and who knows how far they had come. We gave them a lift to Bon Laboy, and they still had further to walk. On the way, we passed a small group of teenagers, their grandkids, they say, who were walking ahead of them. Let me show you a North Vietnamese poem from a Lao cave and some other soldier drawings and tell you about poetry's importance to North Vietnamese soldiers. Poetry was and is important to Vietnamese culture, and the Communist Party during the war realized poems didn't require formal education to appreciate or memorize, and an ideological message embedded in poetry could reach a much broader audience than something like a Communist Party resolution, since poetry also helped people remember a message longer. Even U.S. psychological warfare planners during the war recognized the power of poetry. A 1967 U.S. military evaluation concluded that poetry produced the most favorable emotional responses of any propaganda medium they used, although badly written poetry elicited the opposite response. For ordinary soldiers marching down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, poetry was one of the few available forms of self-expression, a way to process homesickness, fear, grief, and doubt in a life that left little room for any of that. In fact, captured diaries and poems were documented by U.S. military intelligence. A detailed catalog exists, compiled by a retired U.S. Psy-War Sergeant Major, of dozens of actual poems recovered from the bodies, diaries, and notebooks of dead or captured North Vietnamese and Viet Cong soldiers, alongside the American propaganda leaflets built around them. I include detail of the Sergeant Major and this catalog in the video description. Recurring themes in these genuine soldier-written poems include longing for mothers, wives, and home villages, the physical hardship of the trail, worn-out shoes, hunger, exhaustion, cold, disillusionment with the war's cost and confusion about its purpose, grief over comrades' deaths, and a desolate, war-ravaged landscape, occasional exhaustion-driven fatalism about their own likely death. The North Vietnamese and local Lao sheltered in caves for protection. In Vieng Xai, Lao, the Communist Pathet Lao sheltered up to 23,000 people in the cave complex for 9 years, where Lao babies were born, people were married, and people died. North Vietnamese soldiers used caves as shelters, staging areas, and even performance spaces.
The war started in 1964, at which time aircraft started bombing, but not many yet. During that time, I was still young, around 7 to 8 years old. First, we moved to the jungle, where we stayed 1 to 2 years. In 1965, we moved into this cave. Our village moved into the cave. Actually, 2 villages, but they belonged together. There are 2 caves in this rock, a lower and upper cave. From 1968 to 1969, we could still move out to do some farming. By the end of 1969 to 1970, we could not move out anymore. During that time, we were getting food from the Vietnamese army or whatever fell from the trucks. Sometimes Vietnamese soldiers stayed with us in the caves. In 1969, there was heavy bombing in our region.
Here we have a North Vietnamese shoe made from the tire tread, as they did back in the day. You can see this was a rubber tire. Here's the tread. We know this is a shoe because we have where the straps are attached into the shoe. This possibly, well, this was definitely a tire. Whether this was definitely a tire, whether it was going to be made for a shoe, we don't know, maybe not, but this definitely was a Vietnamese Army shoe. Digby Greenhalgh found this poem in a Lao cave we visited, which translates, "Tonight I'm sitting alone on guard duty, thinking about my hometown and my wife, a woman of deep affection." If you wish to read a rather sorrowful account of the lower-ranking North Vietnamese soldier experiences during the war, veteran Bao Ninh's novel, The Sorrow of War, is a compelling account. Although written as a fictional novel, it is widely understood as an account of his and his comrades' experiences. The book captures these same soldier-poet experiences and is often read alongside primary source documents to provide the Northern soldier's perspective of the war.